What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Courage Molina, coming to you with the DOC, Dose of Courage, giving you what you need to become bolder, more confident, and courageous enough to go after everything God said you can have. Let's go. What's up? What's up? So glad that you guys are back here. This is episode number 8. I am fresh from Paris this week, and I'll probably say that 1,000 times because I can't believe I actually went to Paris. It was an amazing trip. I was gone for about 10 days, but it does feel good to be back in the QC in my backyard. It's definitely amazing to be home. Um, Before we get into the episode, let me let you know this episode is brought to you by the Courage Circle. The Courage Circle is community-based coaching. So if you ask yourself what you would do with bolder faith, what would you do if you were more confident? What would be the next step that you would take if you were more courageous? Think about that. And whatever that thing is, the Courage Circle can help you to get there, can help you to become bolder in your faith and more confident and courageous so that you go after the life you truly want. You start to take God at His word, and you're willing and able to, take those steps in the face of uncertainty. So if that's you, you should definitely check out the Courage Circle. It will, without question, change your life. I'd like to say that having bolder faith and being more confident and courageous is kind of what got me to a place where I was even open to the idea of going to Paris. Now, all of us have these one day or someday dreams, right? Like, one day I'm going to do this, someday I'm going to, and you can kind of fill in the blank. And it's this hope or this wish we have in our hearts, but we don't really have a plan or a strategy to get there. It's just like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I could do this? Kind of comes from a place of disbelief. We don't really believe it's possible. It's just this far-fetched dream. But when you start to believe that anything is possible, you really start to set your sights and your dreams on bigger and better things. And so my new bold confidence and faith and courage led me down a place where I was able to take this trip to Paris. And I was in Paris for 6 days, right? That does not include my travel time, just 6 days in Paris. And while I was there, through the sightseeing and the eating and the bonding and reflecting, I learned 3 things that I couldn't wait to come back and share with you. And so that's basically what this episode is going to be about, me sharing with you 3 things that I learned while I was in Paris. Paris really gave me a new perspective and honestly probably renewed my perspective on some things. So this trip was organized by a friend, and she is a friend who does a ton of traveling. She's an entrepreneur, 20-year vet, retired with 20 years into the service, and so she's kind of living this life that she doesn't need a vacation from, and she does so out loud, and so I'm inspired by her on a regular basis, and she's the one who organized this trip. And while I was there, I learned what really matters. Okay, being on this trip taught me what really matters, and I matter. I do. And I know that seems like, duh, of course you matter. But I mean, my hopes, my dreams, my mental well-being, how I want to spend my time just for fun, that's important. My wants are actually important. I actually matter. Not just this big, existential thing where like, oh, we all matter. No, I mean like small stuff. What I want for breakfast, how I want to spend my weekend. And I know that seems so trivial, but we live lives based on, what we think we should do or we have to do, or don't forget what matters most. You matter. And so that's what I learned. I learned what matters, and I'm what matters. My calling matters. My calling is so important. My calling is going to impact and encourage people to do things that they otherwise might not do. It's going to open up their eyes and introduce them to a love for the Word of God and time in God's Word. And that is something that is going to have lasting impacts, not only on them, but on their children, their children's children, and anyone they come into connection with. And that my husband matters. Now listen, I didn't need to go to, I know y'all are probably thinking, you didn't know that before you went to Paris. It's a different perspective. I knew I was important, but sometimes my wants don't seem important. The pizza topping, the movie, just those small little things where we can, especially as wives and mothers and, in this female circle, it always seems like we should be giving in to what other people want. We should be very accommodating. And I'm not suggesting that you be rude to people. I'm suggesting that you remember that you matter, right? And so I did need to go to Paris for that, but it just kind of changed my perspective a little bit. And so when I say my husband matters, it's one thing. I mean, it's so crazy. It's one thing for me to say that he matters and to believe it. It's another thing to ask myself, do my day-to-day actions show it? Not my one-off, not my, wifely responsibilities. And yes, those things certainly show, what's important to me, grocery shopping, making sure the bills are paid and things like that. Obviously, taking care of the household. It on some level implies that my husband is important, that my husband matters. But the new perspective is asking myself, to my daily habits, how I spend my day, my weeks, my months, do they show that he matters? Do I make decisions that speak and communicate to him how important he is? And unfortunately, I've realized in Paris that I do not. While in Paris for those 6 days, my phone was on airplane mode. Okay? Listen, I didn't get an international talking plan. I really wanted to be there in the moment. It was important to me. It mattered to me to really be able to focus on my trip and the time there. So I had my phone on airplane mode the entire time. And the only time I took calls or made calls were when I was at the hotel. And those calls were mostly to my husband and my children, right? So for 6 days, I didn't take business calls, friends who need help calls, follow-up calls to people I called maybe last week, but they couldn't get to me. I didn't respond to emails, none of that. I did none of that for 6 days. And it's because being there mattered. And I realized that when I'm with my husband, my phone is not on airplane mode. Now, I may turn my phone down or turn the ringer off, but every once in a while, I'm picking it up to see if somebody's called or texted. And if someone has texted or sent me a message or something to that effect, I'm immediately responding. We were sitting in the backyard before I went to Paris, and somebody called, and he was mid-sentence, y'all. This is just me being transparent. He was mid-sentence, and because they were returning my call, I was like, oh, I have to take this. And I picked up the phone, and I said hello, and he kind of rolled his eyes a little bit, and I just walked into my office, and I did my work, and then I came back out, and I was like, sorry, I needed to take that call. I had sent her an email, and she was responding to my email, and so it was just really important that I take it. When I tell y'all, he ain't caring nothing about that. Like, he was not like, oh, I understand. And I was mad. I was mad at him that he wasn't understanding that this is a business I'm trying to run, right? I'm trying to run a business. I'm trying to build something for us. Because you matter to me, I want to create this lifestyle for us, right? You kind of say those things. But being in Paris with my phone on airplane mode for 6 days, just God convicted me like, girl, if your husband mattered to you like these Paris, this Paris itinerary, maybe you would take some time to put your phone on airplane mode. And when I tell y'all that messed me up, I was like, oh my goodness, but I love him and I want him to know how important he is and I want him to know that he matters. But when something matters, you make decisions and choices daily to show that. And so I matter. I need to make decisions and choices daily that tell myself that I realize how important my own wants, needs, and desires are. Two, my calling is so important. But the beautiful thing about my calling is the first ministry I have is to my husband. He matters. So what changes can I make so that my daily things show him, are a constant reminder of how important he is to me? And so I work from home. I set my own hours. I'm a full-time entrepreneur. And I set my hours like Monday through Friday, right? That's my work schedule. That was my work schedule before I went to Paris. Monday through Friday. And I would take Saturday and Sunday off. My husband only has Sunday off. He doesn't have Saturday off. And he has 2 days off during the week. So he would be here home. We're in the same house all day long. I'm not talking to him. And the reason I'm not talking to him is because I'm working. Because Wednesday is your day off, but it's not my day off. I have to work. I have no reason. Let me just tell y'all this. I have no reason to work on Wednesday. Zilch. I don't have any place that I have to show up to. And that's the kind of business that I've created because I want to have this amount of freedom. I want to have a certain level of freedom and flexibility in my day-to-day schedule so I don't have to work on Wednesday. I don't have to work on Thursday either, y'all. Right? I can literally change my schedule to anything. And so I had to start asking myself, why am I not taking a Wednesday off? Why am I not taking Thursday off and saying, okay, I'm going to work on Saturday instead, or I'm going to work on Sunday, or I'm going to work 4 days and extend my working hours. And the only time I'm going to work on a Thursday or Wednesday, it's when it's unavoidable. When there's no way for me to rearrange this thing, that is the only time that I will do it. But I won't set that as my day-to-day schedule. Insane. And I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that I owe him or that I have to change my days. I'm saying if I was willing to turn my phone off for 6 days and have it on airplane mode for 6 days so that I can enjoy Paris, but I'm not willing to do that for 1 day at home with him, that just like woke me up. I can schedule my days however I want. And so this is the thing, y'all, okay? Since I've realized that I matter, that my calling matters, and that my husband matters, I don't work on Wednesdays and Thursdays anymore. If I have things scheduled already, things I've committed to, I'm going to keep those commitments as of right now. But I will not be making any new commitments for, regular reoccurring events on a Wednesday or a Thursday. I think his new day off is Saturday, so I'm also going to be off on Saturday as well. I will not be getting up early to do podcast recordings or whatever. He used to work on Saturdays, so I worked on Saturday. No. Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. Those are his 3 days off. Guess what? Those are my 3 days off. Even if that means I'm not going to get as big a bag. Like everybody's like, oh, secure the bag. You're building something. Yeah. But as my gut friend, Patrice Washington says, what good is it to build $1 million business and not have anybody to share it with? What good is it for me to have, this business and these work hours that I can schedule and make flexible or whatever if I'm not going to rearrange them so I can spend more time with the person that matters most to me, who is my husband? Child, when I tell you that thing was so good, and every time I talked to him in Paris, I was like, listen, I'm taking the same days off as you. And his face, the first couple times I said it, really revealed what little faith he has in my ability to keep my word when it relates to work, which is horrible. Horrible. That's horrible. I'm laughing because it's like, You think you're doing great work and you think you're doing something good, and then you realize that you've been working so hard, but you've been sacrificing things that really matter. And that's really the point. What matters is I matter, right? So I shouldn't be working so much that I forget that I matter, even down to the small things, just wanting to do something for fun, just for sheer enjoyment, not working every waking hour, right? That my calling does matter, because sometimes you feel like, well, maybe I could take a little break. Maybe my calling isn't important because my calling is not her calling, or it's not the same as somebody else's. No, my calling is important. And the reason I know my calling is important is because it was somebody else saying yes to their call that got me to where I am, that got me to a place where I was open to traveling just for fun. Right? So if their calling is important, so is mine. And my first work, my first ministry is to be a suitable helper to my husband. Period. With a T at the end. You feel me? Period. What am I doing every day to say that he matters? Truth be told, not a whole lot before Paris. But y'all, I came home Wednesday night, got home late. We got here about 11 p.m. So exhausted, just exhausted from traveling. And Thursday, I got up a little earlier than him on Thursday. I had to take care of some household stuff. And when he came downstairs, I was out of this office, outside, chilling with him, phone on airplane mode, probably 98% of the day. We went out, we left the kids here, so my kids are older, but just in case they need to get in touch with us for something, took it off airplane mode, but I literally did not check it unless it rang, and then I need to see who it was, immediately put it down, and it just felt so good to spend the entire day with him. And by the end of the day, like, I could just feel a shift. And I thought to myself, this is something that is so important. I'm so grateful for the time that I spent in Paris, because it just reminded me of what's really important, and being available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for any and everybody who needs me, and not being available and fully prepared to sit around and do nothing with him or do something with him. That's not cool. So that was thing number one. Paris taught me what matters. Paris also taught me that all roads lead to leading. All roads, every experience that you have, accomplishment, every perceived failure, setback, every win, all those roads lead to leading. So we're all out here trying to live our best life, right? If you are living your best life, just by living the life that you've been called to live, creating a life that you absolutely love, that is going to inspire someone. People are going to be inspired by watching you live your authentic and best life. And then after people are inspired by it, the expectation is going to be that you would lead or guide them, that you would take people with you along on this journey. What do I mean by that? So I told you guys that my friend Stephanie Jeffries is the one who organized this trip. When I tell y'all she living her best life, she's living her best life. I roll my eyes every time I see that she's like on another trip. I text her because I'm petty for fun, okay? Like, I'm petty for a good laugh. Like, oh, I see you out the country again. I roll emoji, right? But she is living her best life, and just watching her and being in her space, seeing her live out a life that she prayed, believed God for, and worked towards. When I tell y'all, that inspires me and makes me ask myself, okay, what are you really believing God for? Right? And are the dreams that you have, Courage Molina, are they big? Are they God-sized goals? Are they God-sized dreams? You know? And so because she's living her best life, and she's so inspired us, 9 of us went on this trip with her. She showed us what it takes, what steps we need to take so that we can travel to places that so many people only dream about. So this year, it was Paris, 2019. Next year, I'm going to Bali. You know, my next huge trip is to Bali, 2020. And And the reason it's happening is because everything she did, everything she's been through, all of her experiences towards living her best life, they were always going to lead her to a place where she was called to lead. Do not think for 2 seconds that God allowing you to possess the promises, to possess the promised land, blessing you, healing you, saving you, protecting you, is just so that you can have a real cute life. Bubble burst. That ain't it. It's because he expects for you to take those experiences, those things that you've learned, and he expects for you to lead, guide, teach someone else, right, from your experiences. All roads lead to leading. So if you think, oh, I'm not called to lead, no, we're all called to lead. You may not be called to a leadership position. You may not be called to be at the top of this particular business or organization or whatever, but we are all called to lead. Your experiences, the things that you've been through, the things that God has kept you from, brought you through, when you look back over your life and you realize, I am living a life that I love, I have healed from something, my marriage is in a good place, I've gotten out of debt, I've lost the weight, whatever it is that you have been through, all those experiences are meant to lead you to leading other people. All roads lead to leading. I never really thought about that before. Never really considered that all of the things that I'd been through were always meant to prepare me for leadership. Were always meant to prepare me to guide somebody else. So you're not going to be living your best life and overcoming and winning and all this XYZ just so that you can have a great life. No, all of those experiences, they all lead to you eventually leading someone, to you eventually guiding someone. And I think it's important for me to mention that because we need to be open to it. Sometimes we are reluctant to leading because I haven't been through what she's been through, or I haven't accomplished what she's accomplished, right? So because I haven't accomplished at the same level as someone else, I don't think that I'm called to lead. Everybody can just go to her. No, friend. God has blessed you, called you, and anointed you, brought you through these amazing experiences. Some of these experiences were traumatic. He brought you through those so that you could ultimately lead someone else out. So you could be a live example of what God can do with a person who is open and willing to follow him, to trust him, to put in the work. So all roads lead to leading. And the last thing that I want to share with you that I learned while in Paris is first things first. Everything, there's an order to everything. And what I've seen from this trip and just everything that it took to get there is that every real change, every real accomplishment, outcome, whatever, starts with a desire. What do you want? Just think for a minute. Take a second and really consider what it is you really want in life. What life do you want? What do you want for yourself? How do you want to spend your days? How do you want to spend your nights? Think about what you actually want. So, do you want to be healthier? Do you want to be stronger, more flexible? Do you want to be emotionally stable? Do you want to be more self-aware? Do you want to travel? A lot. Do you want to travel first class, coach, basic economy? What is it? You don't care how you get there as long as you get there. You want to be financially free. Do you want to live in a world? Do you want to live debt free where you don't owe a man or a woman anything, not one red cent? Think about what it is you want, because the first step to any of that, to getting any of that, is a true desire for it. Do you actually want it? And sometimes, we get into this thing where it's okay, do you actually want it and why? Because if your why isn't good, then you won't get it. I also think if your why isn't rooted in something more than outward appearances, then you also don't really want it. You You actually want something else, right? So what do I mean by that? Um, so you're saying that you want to buy a house, right? And the reason you want to buy a house is because you're in your mid 30s and really and truly, this is what they say you should have by age 35. By age 35, you should own a home. It's smarter. Makes more sense. It's the best choice. Doesn't make any sense to throw your money away. And so you've decided that you want to, this is what they say. So you've decided that you want to buy a house, right? But you're not really taking the steps to get there. You haven't gotten there yet. You're not willing to make the sacrifices. And this is why. Because what you really want is not to buy a house. What you really want is to be seen as a person who is responsible, who is smart, who is exactly where they're supposed to be at this phase in their life. You want to show that, you are smart, or that you've achieved, or that you've accomplished something, right? And you want to show that your life hasn't been a waste. And so if you are smart and you're logical and you're whatever, and you're in your mid 30s and you're successful, it means that you're buying a home. So you want to buy a home, not because you actually want to own a house, but because the thing that you really want is to look good for people, or for people to believe something about you. So that's not a true desire. So I want you to think about your true desires. What is it you really want for you? Not for other people. What is it you really want for your own life? It starts there. That's the first thing first, the desire. A true, honest, authentic desire to do something. Do you really want to lose weight? Or are you saying that you want to lose weight because you're overweight and you know that people think that overweight people should want to lose weight? Right? That's the thing. People think that if you are overweight, even if you're not losing weight, at the very least, you should say that you want to lose weight. People are not okay with you being overweight, and with you being okay with being overweight and not making any decisions to change that, right? So are you saying that you want to lose weight because you actually want to be healthier for yourself? Or is it some outward thing that you're trying to get? You want people to think XYZ, right? If it's not true to you, then you're not going to do it. So just stop saying that you want it, and then you don't have to bear the burden of this false failure. And I say it's a false failure because you didn't do something you didn't really want to do. So is that really a failure? I don't think so. So it starts with desire, truly desiring something for yourself. And then the next is like belief. So I have a desire for something. Do I believe that it's possible? I truly want this thing, fill in the blank. I truly want to travel the world. I truly want to buy a home. I want to get married. I want to lose weight. I want to be financially free, whatever. That's my true desire. Do you believe it's possible? You want your marriage to be restored. That's what you truly want, you guys to get back to the place where you used to be. Or you want to get to a better place, to a place you've never been. You want to have a healthy and happy marriage. You truly desire that. But do you believe it's possible? Because from that comes the preparing and the work. Right? Are you preparing? Are you putting in the work? So the reason I said first things first is because when I think about my trip to Paris, unless you were a part of the inner circle, right, then you didn't know that I was going to Paris. You didn't know I was going to Paris until I posted it on my Facebook, or until I mentioned it on Instagram or my IG story. Then you were like, oh, she's going to Paris. But purchasing my ticket or paying for my hotel, that wasn't the first step. That wasn't the first thing that needed to happen in order for the Paris trip to manifest. The first thing is I had to have an actual desire to travel. And I really wanted to go on an international trip. Like, I really wanted to go somewhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, she travels all the time. I want to go somewhere. I want to go on a trip, right? That's how it was. I had a real desire. Until I believed it was possible. I believed it was possible because I saw Stephanie go on 1 billion trips. And she's not a celebrity. She's dope. She's not a celebrity. Because sometimes we're okay with certain things and we kind of say, well, they're a celebrity. Of course they can do that. Yeah, they fly privately because, they're celebrities, right? So we kind of And since I know I'm not a celebrity, it means it's not possible for me. No, Stephanie's a dope chick, but for all intents and purposes, she's just a regular person. And so if she can do it, and I'm a regular person, I'm not a celebrity. I'm just regular too. I'm dope, but I'm also just regular. I believe it's possible for me because I've seen her do it. So I had a real desire and I had a real belief. And then I had to prepare, had to fill out my paperwork to get my passport, had to go to the passport office and take a picture. It didn't happen overnight. I had to wait for it to come back, right? Get my ticket. Had to work so I can get this money to pay for my hotel. Work to get this money so that I could have some spending money. All of these things had to happen in order for this trip to manifest. And so, it doesn't just happen overnight, and there's an order to it. And so those are the things that I really paid attention to. So as it relates to my next dream or all these other goals that I have that I haven't realized yet, I need to think about like, okay, do I really want to do this? Do I believe that it's possible? Okay, where am I going to do the work to get there? However long it takes. And so just knowing that people are not realizing their dreams overnight, that you may see, fruit starting to bear, but it didn't start with the fruit. It started at the root. It started with the seed. It started with something they did when nobody was watching. It first started with a desire to even have fruit, right? So just like keeping that in mind. Being in Paris, that entire trip, the women on the trip were, listen, absolutely just dynamic, ambitious, amazing women from all over the United States, from California, Mississippi, Maryland, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina. We were literally from all over, and the trip just, completely changed me. And one of the things that it did is I had a lot of time to reflect, and it really renewed my perspective on a ton of things, things I'd never expected to get. And so I share that because I want us all to start taking some time whenever you have an opportunity to experience your dreams lived out loud, like hold up a second. I remember saying I was going to do this, and I'm actually doing it. Take some time to look back over the journey that it took you to get there. Have some time reflecting, while you're in that space, because it's so revealing, and it's something that can really continue to grow you beyond the experience itself. And so I encourage you to travel if that's what you want to do, that you would dream big, that you would really consider what matters, and that as you are realizing these dreams and you're experiencing, the manifestation of God's promises in your life, that you keep an open mind, understanding that you are living in that dream space so that you can eventually help somebody else to get through something, get over something, get to their promised land also. And don't forget that there's an order. I pray that this has blessed you. Let me just tell you all this. I have outlined probably 4 podcasts in Paris, just so y'all know. Just in my time of reflection, just thinking. And so I probably should have said this episode is brought to you by my trip to Paris. This content was created in light of my trip to Paris. So I pray that it has blessed you, that it's encouraged you, it's given you something to think about. And as always, as I always say, no matter what your goals are or what your strategy and resources are, if you don't have a strong foundation of faith to move with, it's just not going to happen. You have to have, I know people say faith the size of a mustard seed, right? But sometimes we don't even have that amount of faith. And it takes active faith to move mountains, to see these dreams that you have in your heart manifested in your life. And if you don't have that, if you're thinking you'd like to go to Paris one day, you'd like to start a business someday, I know I need to, whatever, fill in the blank. If you're thinking about that, and the thing that's keeping you from moving forward is fear, and doubt and this uncertainty. You're not sure of who you are. You've forgotten you had this identity conflict. You don't realize that greatness is for you also, that big dreams are for you also, that the same God that has made an opportunity and a way for me to go to Paris is the same God that's going to make an opportunity for you to do the thing you're thinking about right now. If you're not there, you need to be in the courage circle. And I'm going to tell you this, it ain't church neither. Church is something you can just show up to. Show up, singing, they usher you in, the preacher gonna preach, and you can go home feeling good. That ain't the courage. Courage circle ain't church. It's a place for you to come and do work. It's like, think of the courage circle as a gym for your faith. It's where you're going to come and get a workout. It's where you're going to come and learn about what nutrition you need to consume. It's where you're going to be held accountable. And it is where you will be able to ask questions from your personal trainer, myself, yours truly, Courage Molina, Chief Courage Crusader here. You'll be able to get questions asked, and you'll be able to get, a workout regimen that's going to grow your faith, that's going to build it, that's going to help you become bolder and more confident and courageous. And your life won't be the same. If you lean in and you do the work, I promise you, this time next year, your life will not be the same. So if you want to check it out, go to couragemolina.org, click the tab that says the Courage Circle, or you can check it out in the show notes. Click there. It doesn't cost you anything to click and see what it's about. And just make the decision that you're ready to lean in and become bolder. You're ready to take those steps. I'd love to see you there. If you love this podcast, share it with 5 people. I need your help getting out these messages of encouragement and empowerment, challenging our perspectives, encouraging us to spend time in the Word of God. I need your help getting this message out. If you are a Courage Crusader, meaning you listen to the podcast regularly, maybe you're even on the email list, I want you to consider sharing this podcast with 5 people that you know, sharing your favorite episode on your social media. Tag me because I'd love to see it. It would make me feel so good to see it. So yes, definitely tag me on your social media. But if you love this and this is encouraging you and you are being fed here, share this with someone else. I need you to help me fight this fight against fear and doubt. You're not the only person who needs encouragement. I'm not the only person that needs encouragement. There's somebody that you know who seems like they have it all together, but they are struggling, but you don't know. You have this great thing that can help them. So just share it. Share it with everybody that you like, and share it with people you don't like. It's okay. You ain't got to like them to share. This is an easy share, child. Listen, they start listening to the podcast. They might be your best friend after a while. They might have some change in their life. You'd be like, oh, you've been listening to Adults of Courage. Okay, girl, we can be friends now. So share it with people you love and even people you don't like that much. Write a review if you've loved it. I would love to hear how this podcast is impacting you. Send me an email. I'd love to hear from you guys. It is encouraging to me to know that this work that I do is actually impacting you. And if you want to know how you can support the podcast, the best thing that you can do to support me is to share this podcast every single week. All right? I love you. And, I hope y'all are out there just keeping it fresh and keeping it dope and courageous, because y'all are just that dope. God has called y'all to do great things, and I just can't wait to see how this thing impacts you. Until next time, y'all, it's your girl, Courage Molina, Chief Courage Crusader, here declaring war on fear and doubt. I want you guys to be strong and courageous. Love y'all.